Hey everybody, welcome to our first virtual keeper chat from the Buttonwood Park Zoo in New Bedford, Massachusetts. I'm so excited to be able to do this with you all. We're going to be here every day at 11 with some of your favorite zoo animals, or maybe some that you don't always get to see, a little behind the scenes action. My name is Carrie. I'm the curator of education here at the zoo, and I'm here today with a couple of my coworkers, Sam and Sarah, who are educators, and a couple new animal ambassadors. So we're really excited because these guys are brand new to the zoo, which means none of you have met them yet. So bear with us. This is our first Facebook Live. We hope that you have as much fun as we're going to have today. So our animal ambassadors are our program animals that come out with us to our programs. If you've ever been to our zoo crew camps or here for a random day when we're out with them, you may have met them. Things like Cisco, our great horned owl, the tegus, some of your other favorite friends. Maybe just so that I can start practicing this whole thing, I could get some thumbs up or some hearts if you've ever visited the zoo and met an animal ambassador, or maybe throw in the comments your favorite animal ambassador that you know of ours. Yes, awesome. So you know us, and if you don't, you're about to learn all about us over the next few weeks. Just because the zoo's closed, the staff is still here providing really excellent care to our animals. You don't need to worry about them. But really our favorite thing to do is interact with our visitors, and since we're not able to do that right now, we're going to be doing these virtual keeper chats every day. We may even do some Science on a Sphere demos. You never know what we're going to come up with. So definitely be posting your questions and comments so that we know you're here with us. Hi, Luna, and all of our other friends, Adrian. So we are going to be meeting a brand new animal ambassador, and I thought it could be fun to maybe try and guess who we're going to meet. So I'm going to give you a couple hints. These two friends are native to this area, so we're in New Bedford, Massachusetts. They're native to North America. They are nocturnal, which means they come out at nighttime, so we don't see them very often. And we don't probably want to see them when we're out and about because they have a pretty interesting defense that could make us feel really smelly. Does anyone want to maybe post in the comments your guess to who you might be meeting today in your virtual keeper chat? I bet Luna has a guess for me. I'll give you another hint. They're black and white, and they have a stripe down their back. All right, I'm going to turn this camera around for the stars of the show, our educators, Sam and Sarah, and they're going to bring out our friends. All right, so we're going to start with Sam.
Awesome. For those of you who guessed skunk, you are absolutely correct. So our new animal ambassadors are two striped skunks. We have Hamilton here. And in just a few minutes, his sister Lavender will be coming out as well. Come on, Mr. Hamilton. Here he comes. It's a nice smell. Trying to figure out what's around. Give me a little bit more time so you can come out. Awesome. There we go. So this here is Hamilton. And him and his sister Lavender live here at the zoo. They are our newest animal ambassadors. They came here from another facility where they were animal ambassadors. But then we adopted them from that facility, so they're going to be living here with us and hopefully coming up for programs and zoo crews and a lot of other cool things, so you can always see them up close and personable. Hamilton here is about 5.5 pounds, where his sister is going to be a little bit smaller, at a little over 4 pounds as well. So right now here on this mat, you can see he's sniffing around. This mat is his little program mat, so he can forage around a little bit. I am feeding him some worms because skunks are insectivores, which means that they love eating insects. So their favorite things are beetles and caterpillars and other larvae. This mat, because it's kind of like a shag rug, allows them to forage a little bit and try and find their food. I think he's pretty cute. So I'm very excited to show him off for a lot of the new programs coming up. And Sarah here is going to be talking about the skunk's natural history. And she'll be bringing out Lavender, Hamilton's sister.
Alright, so now some of you are having technical difficulties. Hopefully it starts working soon as we bring out our other adorable friend here. Now Lavender and Hamilton are brother and sister. They're about to turn 3 years old. They have 6 skunk patterns. Skunks, we're usually thinking of striped skunks. That said, there are 10 species of skunks in the world. This is the one that we've got around here, and they are all over North America. They go all the way up into Canada. They take up the entire United States of America, and they can even be found in the top part of Mexico. So we've got them all over the place. And because of that, they've got some really cool adaptations that make them good in living in a lot of different environments. Now, the number one thing that people think of when they think about skunks is they think about that really nasty smelling spray, which is a pretty impressive adaptation that very few animals in the world can do. So some of the things that we worry about, though, is us getting sprayed, our animals getting sprayed. These guys don't have a great sense of sight or anything like that, but if they know that danger is coming, they can spray that noxious spray up to 20 feet away from them. And it can be incredibly potent. It'll even stick around for quite a few days afterwards. But the good news for us is that we don't have to worry too terribly much. Skunks really don't want to spray us. In fact, that is their #1 defense mechanism, and it actually takes up to 10 days to recharge once they've used it. So if they spray us, then they're a little bit vulnerable to the rest of the world for a little while after that. So it's really important that we don't accidentally think that skunks are a huge problem. They're actually wonderful for our ecosystem. As Sam said, they are primarily insectivores. So they spend an absolute ton of time foraging for insects that would otherwise be kind of a nuisance to us. That's not all they eat, though. In addition to insects, they'll eat basically any small animal that they can get their paws on. So they'll be spending time hunting things like frogs, snakes, small birds. They could even take down something like a vole, and they like to eat things like eggs as well. They're incredibly resourceful. They're not only going to eat meat, though, they'll also eat things like nightshade. So your tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, they'll eat things like ground cherries, and even stuff like corn and some greens. So these skunks are incredibly versatile, and they're going to spend time even basically going for anything they can find, whether it's dead or not. They're not too super smelly, which is pretty good since they're one of those super smelly things. Now that begs the question of what might eat a skunk. Now because they're so smelly, not a lot of things are up for that challenge. But since many birds of prey don't have a sense of it does mean that hawks, eagles, and owls are going to be huge predators. Sometimes, though, like I said, they won't have too much spray, and that means that they will be vulnerable to things like foxes, bobcats, mountain lions, even coyotes. So they do have to be pretty careful about keeping the defense mechanism intact. Now, these skunks have been scented, which means that those scent glands are no longer there. So we're not at risk of getting sprayed right now, which is very lucky for us. And that's something that a lot of people will do if they want to have them as a pet, which is actually legal in 17 states. That said, if anything were to happen and these little guys got loose, they would be at huge risk because they don't have a great sense of direction. And now, really their only defense would be their not too sharp claws, which they usually just use for digging, and their teeth, which they usually direct towards our insect friends. So I can keep talking about all sorts of cool skunk facts, but if you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments. We'd be happy to take any of those. Do we have any yet, Carrie?
I don't know. Potential technical difficulties. I promise we will post the whole video when we are done, and I am sorry for that. We are new to this, so we are trying our best. But if you can hear us and you can comment with a question, feel free to do so. I know there are some of you watching with us, so I know it is working for some people. So hopefully we get some questions. But maybe you can keep talking and I can cut in if someone gives me a question.
Absolutely. So this is kind of a cool time of year to watch our skunks' behavior. This is the time of year where typically a skunk would be looking for a mate so they can have some babies. Now these are brother and sister, and Hamilton has been neutered, so that's not a situation that we're going to be seeing much of. But it is something that you can remember if you're out and about and you do see a skunk. They're going to be especially intense this time of year. Now it's a pretty cool idea. These skunks are going to have 1 litter each year with between 2 and 10 babies in it. The fathers are going to basically leave immediately, but the moms are really great moms. They provide total protection and care for their babies up to a year after they're born. So after being pregnant for 2 months, they're going to have a really nice long time to take care of those babies. Unfortunately, because they can be kind of vulnerable, the average lifespan of a skunk in the wild doesn't often make it years. They can live up to 7 years, up to 10 even, but unfortunately, they're at a lot of risk, and some of that actually is coming from us. People think of skunks as a bit of a nuisance, but really they're wonderful, wonderful insectivores. They're taking care of a lot of our pest problems, and they really don't like to bother much of anyone. So as long as we stay away from them, they're actually a really wonderful asset to our ecosystem.
So we have some questions coming in hard and fast. We are wanting to be reintroduced. We didn't catch their names potentially at the beginning, and some people are wondering why their coloring is so different. Their stripes are different.
Their names are Hamilton and Lavender. I have Hamilton in front of me, and Sarah has Lavender. Again, they are about the same age. They're turned 3 years old. The reason they have different coloration is just like how you and I might have different hairstyles and hair colors. It doesn't affect. It doesn't mean that their spray is any different or their claws are going to be any different. It's just in their natural genetic material that their stripes might be a little bit different.
And they were actually just asking, are these skunks going to spray you two today?
Luckily not. Their scent glands, which is something that can be done to captive skunks within the first few days of them being alive. So all mammals are going to have those scent glands near their anus, but not a lot of animals can actually spray that smelly liquid. So what ends up happening is the only animals in the world that can do that are our 10 species of skunks and 2 Asian species of something called a stink badger. So it's a pretty neat trait that they've got, and luckily for us, we don't have to be too terribly concerned about getting sprayed because they don't have those scent glands anymore.
And we were asking, we had a great question from Jackson, age 4. Oh, well, that was his question. I'm sorry. Emily wanted to know, and we know Emily, why they would need to spray. Is there a particular predator of a skunk?
Well, hi, Emily. That's a great question. So skunks have, like I said, a fair amount of predators they've got to be really careful about. Now, unfortunately, since owls and eagles and hawks don't have a sense of smell, that scent is not going to be as bad for them. But it would be really helpful if something like a big dog or cat, like a wolf, coyote, bob, if they tried to sneak up on a skunk, the skunk would be able to spray it, which would cause temporary blindness if it gets to the eyes, and even vomiting or an upset stomach if it gets too close to their nose. And they're going to smell really nasty for a few days. So if anything tries a dog or a cat that you have as a pet, or even you yourself get a little too close, you could get a nice big spray. Like I said, they don't want to use it though. They have a couple warnings. So before they spray you, they'll make little stamping sounds with their feet, they'll make little grunting sounds, and they'll make a big arch with their tail. So if you see or hear any of those things, you're going to want to back away slowly, and you should both be okay.
We had some good questions about their babies. How many do they have, and do they make a nest for their babies?
Absolutely. So in a given year, they'll have anywhere between 2 and 10 babies, usually averaging around 5. To make a really nice burrow. Now, like I said, these guys can be found all over North America. In places where the winter is cold, they certainly make nests below ground. But since it's usually going to be warm when they're having their babies, most of those dens are going to be above ground in things like little holes, maybe hollow logs. They'll make a nice comfy place, and those babies are going to stay there until they're strong enough to come outside to find food.
We had a great question. Aylin was wondering, what are they eating right now? They're very busy with their mats trying to find some food.
Awesome. So right now they are eating mealworms and superworms because their main part of their diet are insects. Skunks are what's known as insectivores, which means that they will eat a lot of insects for their diets. So occasionally they will eat some vegetation, like Sarah said, like some nightshade or some other berries they might find on the ground. But they are primarily predators, and they're going to eat a lot of those insects and occasionally some mice and some voles and maybe some other small animals.
Oh my good, so many good questions coming in. Wyatt wants to know if skunks make any noises.
Hi, Wyatt. Skunks can make a lot of really cool sounds. They can make little chirps, they can make growls, they can stomp with their feet. So they've got a really wide variety of sounds. They're going to try to be pretty quiet though in case there are friends who might hear them, but they can use those sounds when they're communicating with their babies or their mothers. They can use it to try and scare off a predator who's maybe gotten a little too close.
We maybe have time for questions. I saw a question about, who is it here? They wanted to know if they do get sprayed, is there a way to get that smell off of them if they have that situation?
There is actually a pretty good way to do it, and it's not tomato sauce or tomato soup if that's what you're thinking, which was a really long believed tradition for getting rid of that smell. Now, I don't want to tell you the exact measurements because they differ depending on where you look, but it is a nice mixture of low percentage hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and dish detergent. You can't buy it in the store because if you bottle it up, it'll explode. So don't do that. But if you look up a good recipe online, you should be able to find it, and it's pretty good at getting that smell off. Fun fact though, the fact that skunk spray sticks to your skin so well actually meant that they started using it as a base for some high-end perfumes to make the smell stick to your skin longer. So, you know, you find things in the weirdest places.
Well, I just learned something new today. All right, I'll take one last question because our skunk friends are out of worms and probably ready to go take a nap as they are nocturnal. But Emily would like to know, how many different kinds of species of skunks are there?
What a great question. Different kinds of skunks, and they're all in North and South America. And the weird thing is that their closest cousins are the stink badgers, and there are 2 species of those, and they're over in Asia, which brings up some really cool questions about how that would happen, that their closest cousins are pretty far away. But there are 10 kinds of skunks, and the striped skunk is the best friend that we've got right here in Massachusetts.
All right, so I want to apologize again. I know we had a little bit of technical difficulty at the beginning of this video. We will be posting the whole video in just a second, so we hope you'll go back and watch that. It'll also